Hi, Bonnie, Stacy, Todd. Haven't seen you two in a while. I've seen your mom and your dad off and on the last couple of months. I've been visiting your dad, and usually your mom's there, so I get a chance to talk to her. I want to send you a couple of videos. I know we're having a difficult time getting your schedules to meet because your work schedules are so different, but I felt it important for you to know a couple things about your dad that I'm sure he never told you about because he's a pretty humble person and very intelligent and hardworking. When I came to Watervliet in 1985, I had left Whittemore Prescott schools, and I'd been hired there as superintendent from 82 to 85 to do one thing, and that was to pass a millage. And a millage is when the local taxpayers vote on increasing their taxes on their property for money to go to the schools for operation of the school. Not sure what it's like in Illinois now, but that was the law back in Michigan at the time I was there. And I'd been hired at Whittemore Prescott for that one reason. They ranked last in their expenditures per pupil in the 80s, in the mid 80s, and maybe the late 80s. There was a nationwide depression, kind of a recession, not really a depression, but a recession, and the states were having funding problems to get money funneled to schools to continue their operation. So many schools looked to passing that millage to get more money for their school operational programs. And I was hired into Whittemore Prescott because I had a financial background. And many of the superintendents in the state, I think there were 529 schools, so 529 superintendents were curriculum people. And my background was not curriculum, it was finance. So I got hired, I got recommended to take that job, and I got hired in that job to pass the millage. And I learned from the state some workshops that I'd gone to how to do that, and I was able to implement some procedures that allowed that school district to pass a pretty big millage increase, got them out of their financial problems, and they wound up going up to maybe in 3 years up to 275th in the state. So pretty substantial increase in their taxes and their allocation that they could spend on their students. Well, with that background, I was recommended to apply for the job in Watervliet because in 1985, Watervliet had just become the 529th school district in expenditures for their students. And I think my predecessor, Bill Penny, had been trying to pass that millage and had been unsuccessful. So anyway, in 1985, I came in as superintendent, and your dad was high school principal, and Don Wilson was there, and as middle school principal, I think he served as athletic director, and uh, can't remember her first name, but Buchholz was one of the principals in the elementary, and David Coffin was the other principal. So I got hired in July, and I had a meeting with those principals because I knew from my experience at Whittemore Prescott that the principals were the key to passing any millage in any school district. And so I was going to train them as to what they should do when we ran our first millage campaign there. And so I met in my office. I had them come into the meeting room in my office and introduce myself. I knew Dave Coffin. I'd worked with his wife at one time, so I knew Dave a little bit. And everybody else there, I just kind of knew from reputation. Don Wilson was from Dowagiac, so I kind of knew who he was. Anyway, I met with them and I kind of outlined my procedures and plans for passing that millage. It was really interesting. I'm new on the job, moved my family to Watervliet and had purchased a house, and uh, it was silent. When I asked them if they would follow through on my plan, it was absolutely silent. I mean, there was no, all I could hear was breathing in the room. And I've got to tell you, I was probably 37, 38 years old at the time. I was still one of the youngest superintendents in the state. And um, I got this feeling that I'd made a big mistake coming to Watervliet and buying a house, moving my family, and all my kids were in school. And I knew the school system was a good school system, but if we didn't pass that millage, they were going to consolidate that school with Coloma, and the state has the right to do that. And that would have been probably devastating for Watervliet and Coloma both. So I knew there was a lot on the line. I knew the only way that millage was going to pass was to have my principals buy into my process and to do the work that had to be done. So I gave them about 5 minutes to talk about this, and nobody said anything. And I really got concerned because I hadn't had that reaction when I was at Whittemore Prescott. So I just stood up and looked around the room at those principals, and I said, "Well, listen, I'm going to go to my office, and I'm going to think about my career plans, because if I can't pass this millage year, if I'm a failure here, then I'm going to have to move, because it's going to be devastating to the students if we don't get some more money. And I don't want my kids to be a part of that. And I don't think you want your kids or anybody else's kids to be a part of that. So you think about this. I'll be in my office, and you can come and tell me that if you want to do the work, then I'm going to stay here. And if you don't want to do the work, I'll try to pass the millage. We'll probably fail, and I'll move my family someplace else." So it was pretty traumatic, pretty stressful at that time, especially for me and my family. So I sat in my office for about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. That's a long time waiting for people to make a decision on your career, your own career plans. Well, your dad was the senior member of the administrative staff there, and he knocked on the door and came to my office, and I was really kind of crestfallen, because I thought all of them would come into my office and say, "We want to do this." So he closed the door, sat down on a chair across the desk from me, and he says, "Bruce, we don't know you very well. We know your intentions are good, but the guy we had here before your dad before you was not very honest with people. He would tell some people one thing and other people another thing, and nobody could trust him." And I said, "Well, you have no reason to trust me, except I'm the guy sitting in the chair with the plan, and this is going to be our plan. We're going to move forward with it, and I'm going to try to pass the millage. And if it's not successful, then I'll look for my next job and move my family. So I'm going to work as hard as I can to make this happen, because I don't want to move. I want my children to be in the school district." So so he left and went back to talk to them, and he came back and he says, "Well, I'll talk to you." So about an hour had gone by, and I came back in, and one by one I went around the room and said, "Will you do the work that I'm asking you to do in this plan?" And which meant going out and talking to parents and talking to students and talking to business people, the clergy and things like that. And I had my share of the work that I would do. And around the table, each one of them said that they would spend the time doing that. And it's difficult to do. You're asking people to increase their taxes to pay you money. That's a tough thing to do. And I just kept saying, we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for our kids. And if we don't do this, the state's we're going to have to make some cuts in programs, and probably consolidate us with Coloma. I'll lose my job. I'll get a different job, because they only need one superintendent. And it's possible that all of you will be able to continue with your jobs, because we still need building principals and athletic directors and things like that. But to a person, your dad had convinced him to trust me. And I don't know how he did it. He never shared, that kind of information with me, but somehow he got them to trust me. And so we started implementing our plan, and it was very successful. And I'm going to tell you another story in another video here, because I don't want the videos to be too long. But your dad was the guy who took it upon himself to come and talk to me and explain to me why there was some reticence in the principals and wanting to work with me in developing my plan for that millage. And he was also the guy that went back in there and talked to all of them about trusting me. So he went out on a limb, because I could have been, just like their past superintendent, that I had not been honest with them and things like that. So your dad is the one who turned that ship around for us. And I'll do another video here in a minute about how some of the things he did to help me learn the community and get that millage passed. I want to say in this video, and hopefully I'll say in the next video, that we passed it that year. And it was almost a 2-to-1 turnaround from the prior year when we tried to pass that millage when Bill Penny was there. And I've got to say that those two things that your dad did, the one I just talked about, that meeting with the principals and getting them to trust me, and the one I'll share in the next video with you, were the keys to that. I mean, he was the man that passed that millage. I was the vehicle that brought the information in there, but he was the man that got everybody on board with that, and did the work, not only the work I asked him to do, but the work in getting those principals to buy into my system and to trust me, and to do this for the children in the school district. And as you know, it was very successful. You were there at the time, probably didn't know everything that was going on, so I wanted to share that kind of background So I've been about 10 minutes, and this video is probably going to go away real quick. So I'm going to save this one. I'm going to send it to all three of you, Bonnie and Stacy and Todd. And I'm going to do another short one to let you know what your dad did specifically that really turned the tables for us. And that was his knowledge, his local knowledge that I needed to have at that time. So I'm going to close this one up, and I'll send this one to you, and I'll do the second one in just a minute. We'll be back shortly.